Hey guys, welcome back to another Gamemaker Studios tutorial. Today we're going to go over horizontal collisions as well as going over slopes. So by the end of this tutorial you will be able to check for if your object or player collides with walls. Also, you will be able to have your player successfully move up slopes, which is pretty nice. In our previous tutorial, you should remember that we made a script called Gravity and Collisions. It is in this script that you want to put our collision code. So this is our gravity and vertical collision check from previously. You want to make sure that you put it below this, or at least you don't put it inside of this. Putting it inside of here would be bad and counterproductive. So make some room. White space doesn't really do anything. And it looks like a lot, but it's pretty simple. There's only like 3 parts to this. The first part being our first if statement. What this does is if there's a place meeting at our current x position plus our horizontal speed, what that does is if we're moving to the left, the collision check automatically now knows that it's checking to the left, and if we're moving to the right, the collision check all takes place to the right now. So instead of having 2 separate collision checks, one for left, one for right, we just have one universal horizontal collision check, which is pretty nice. The rest of that's pretty straightforward. Now, each one of these if statements does pretty much a very similar task. It's checking, these are for degrees of accuracy, and each one checks a different angle. So if there's not a place meeting at our x position plus that horizontal speed, and now we actually check for the vertical displacement here, so in this case y minus 2, then if there's nothing there, that means it is a slope, and we are able to move the player up by that same amount, and we also allow them to continue movement so it stays smooth. Otherwise, it's going to check another angle here. And as you can see, I go from 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 5, 6. The reason for that is for those smaller slopes with not as steep of angles, accuracy is a lot more important, because it looks really bad if your player kind of moves up a little, like is jumping up the slope, it will look like, and they kind of like pop up, fall down, pop up, fall down, pop up, fall down really quick. They'll be bouncing all over the place. That looks really bad. But once you get into the more of a steep angle, for some reason, you just don't notice that. So you're allowed to throw away a little bit of the accuracy and at the same time cover a wider degree of angles and not have so many if statements. Obviously, if you want a lot more accurate checks, you can fill in the 4.5 and 5.5 in between, but you do have to ask yourself, there comes a point where this worst case scenario, each if statement you have will take microseconds longer. You won't notice it, but it would get messy. So you have those slope checks, and then after all of that, make sure that you have your h speed equals 0, because do remember that your original if statement was checking for a horizontal collision. It returned true. So if all of these fail, you do still need to have your h speed set to 0. Now, you could put this in an else statement after these if statements. You don't have to, because they automatically move the x position. So, personal opinion there. Anyways, after all that, what you should be looking at is this. As you can see, horizontal collisions work. They work pretty well. I don't know how accurate or how well you're able to see on YouTube, but there is absolutely no space in between. They line up very nicely and very smoothly. You don't get stuck in walls. Also, you'll notice that you don't come to like a jarring stop and then continue movement like bit by bit. I've seen some videos where there are collision shocks, you kind of go bloop and you stop a little bit before and then it clicks into place. It just looks bad, and sure it works, but doesn't work impressively well. And slopes. Huzzah! As you can see, that's in my opinion, a very smooth transition. I didn't put together an example of a slope with varying bumps and degrees of angles, but you'll have to take my word. You can experiment with that. It does work on pretty much any angle of slope you can imagine. Now, you can't go up things that are like super steep like that. That was as I didn't want to. You can mess with those with these values here. If you increase them, you'll be able to go up steeper walls and everything. But for the most part, those should cover a really wide degree. I think they cover up to 45 degrees in my case, but please note that takes into account my current horizontal speed. If you're moving a lot slower, you're going to want to lower your numbers a little bit, because otherwise you're not moving over to the right as much. So when you do check your angles the way that I'm doing that, take into account your movement speed. If you go beyond your player's movement speed, what happens is you exceed 45 degree angles, and at that point you're going up near vertical slopes. I think 45 degrees is about where the maximum that you want to be able to move your player up a wall, because it looks pretty funny if you're able to just climb a steep wall that's like this and you're just like, how is he doing that? And 45 degrees really is almost pushing it. Not really. I can't imagine you needing more than that. But that's all there is to it. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try and clarify anything or help answer them the best I can. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and if you guys have any tutorials you'd like to see made, tell me. I'll see if I can't make them for you. But other than that, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.